I caught my fiancée s asterisk sting her ex, canceled our wedding, slept with the women she hated most, and sent her the exp asterisk licit photos as revenge. So this isn't one of those posts where I'm asking for advice or wondering if I handled things the wrong way. Everything is already said and done. The dust has settled. But after the absolute B asterisk S I went through, I genuinely think there's a lot to learn here. I've read plenty of stories on this sub that help me connect the dots in my own life, so it only feels right to put my own story out there. I'm also in a place now where I can talk about this with a bit of humor, mostly because I got my get back. And yeah, I got it good. For context, I'm Mark 34M. I work at a large financial institution in the US, and I'm not trying to flex, but I'm doing very well for myself. Solid income, strong upward trajectory, and all of that before hitting my mid-30s. About 7 years ago, I attended a professional conference for work. I ended up chatting with the woman sitting next to me, and we clicked almost immediately. A few months later, we started dating. That turned into a long-term relationship. She was Emily 31F. She had actually just had her birthday a few days before everything blew up, but given how things ended, I obviously didn't bother reaching out with birthday wishes. Ironically, it was on her 30th birthday that I proposed to her. She said yes instantly. Looking back, that day still makes me smile a little. At the time, it was genuinely one of the happiest moments of my life, and I'm sure it was one of hers too. Unfortunately, that memory aged like milk left out in the sun. Still, at that point, I was engaged. Life felt good, or at least I thought it did. Now, I don't know if this is a universal experience, but I've noticed that when someone is uncomfortable talking about their sexual past with their friends, they sometimes unload all of that onto their partner instead. This was the second relationship where that happened to me. And honestly, I don't think most men want to hear detailed stories about every guy their girlfriend, fiancé, or wife has slept with. I've always extended the same courtesy. I don't go into detail about my own past either. But early on, Emily talked. A lot. Eventually, I had to tell her that I really didn't want to hear those stories anymore. Before I shut it down, though, I heard plenty about her most recent ex. His name was Jason, and according to her, their relationship was toxic as hell. Constant fighting, emotional chaos, the whole package. But apparently, he was amazing in bed. By that point, Emily and I had already slept together. So, yeah, of course that planted a seed in my head. I caught myself wondering whether I measured up, whether I was that good, or whether I was just a safe, stable option. She claimed the sex was the main reason she stayed in such a toxic relationship for as long as she did. Looking back, that should have been a much bigger red flag than I treated it as. But she was younger back then, and honestly, a lot dumber, so I let it slide. That background matters. Early in our relationship, Jason came up a lot. Then, gradually, he just didn't. After about 2 years, I stopped hearing his name entirely. I assumed she'd finally moved on, and that was good enough for me. Fast forward to after the engagement. Emily and I were deep into wedding planning. We both came from pretty comfortable families. I wouldn't personally call my upbringing rich, but I've been told I'm out of touch before, so I'll admit my perspective might be skewed. Either way, both sets of parents wanted something big. I was perfectly happy with a friends and family wedding. Keep it intimate. No distant relatives I hadn't seen since childhood. But literally everyone, including Emily, wanted something spectacular. So eventually I caved. This is where things quietly started going to hell, even if I couldn't see it yet. The venue hunt became a whole thing. People wanted scenic locations, private beaches, historic churches, iconic buildings, you name it. I made it very clear that I was fine with a standard event space in the city, but I was told I lacked vision. So I told them they could handle the venue search themselves. I wasn't about to stress over something I barely cared about. Emily told me she was going to check out 3 venues with a friend. I had zero issue with that. She'd already gone with friends to sample caterers and look at dresses, so this didn't register as anything unusual. Later that day, she told me they'd visited a few places and that one old church really stood out to her. She said she wanted to go back in a few days, again with the same friend, just to be sure. I said fine. Once again, I didn't care about the venue, and nothing about the situation raised alarms for me. Eventually, she went back a second time. She came home excited, said she loved it just as much, and that it felt right. We put our name down, and I paid the deposit within the 30-day window. The venue was locked in, and at the time, I genuinely thought everything was perfectly fine. For the next few weeks, everything looked normal. Wedding prep kept moving along smoothly. A few more details got locked in, but thankfully, we hadn't spent much money yet. In hindsight, I'm incredibly lucky things unfolded the way they did. One afternoon, Emily stepped out to sign for a delivery and left her phone on the kitchen island. I wasn't trying to snoop. I genuinely wasn't. But then her screen lit up. "Jason, you there, babe?" My stomach dropped. I didn't have concrete proof it was that Jason, but let's be honest, if there was some other guy named Jason calling my fiancée babe, that somehow felt even worse. Deep down, I already knew. Still, I kept my cool. Guys do stupid things sometimes. An ex might try to push boundaries, flirt, see if there's still an opening. And for all I knew, she wasn't encouraging it at all. So I waited. About 10 days later, she left the house to look at flower arrangements with a friend. And this time, she forgot her phone. There was a chance she'd come back for it, but I wasn't going to let the opportunity slip. I picked it up, opened her messages, and searched his name. They had been talking. A lot. At first, it was mostly casual conversation. Some small talk. Wedding-related stuff. Then I saw messages about the venue. How beautiful it was. How we should go there again sometime. Outside of wedding planning. That's when it clicked. He was the friend. She never gave me a name, which was unusual for her. And now it made perfect sense. She had gone venue hunting with her ex. The same ex I hadn't heard about in years. The same ex she couldn't shut up about early in our relationship. The same ex who was supposedly incredible in bed. So I kept scrolling. And then I hit the part one wish I could erase from my brain. There was a lot of sexting. Explicit. Way beyond anything you could dismiss as harmless flirting. Mostly text, but there were photos too. I had to scroll pretty far back, and sure enough, it lined up perfectly with the second visit to the old church. From that point onward, things were quieter, aside from pet names and casual check-ins. But it was obvious she didn't regret what had happened. They were still talking regularly. She kept him close. That's when I heard the door unlock. For half a second, I considered putting the phone down and pretending nothing was happening. I seriously thought about it. Then I decided, screw it. I stayed right where I was. She walked in, saw me holding her phone, and froze. Her eyes widened, and she rushed toward me, forcing out an awkward, fake cheerful, "Hey, what ya doing?" Then she saw the screen. Jason's chat was open. I just looked up at her without saying a word. She tried to speak, but nothing came out. "You went through my phone? Seriously?" She snapped, immediately trying to flip it on me. I laughed. I honestly think it freaked her out because she took a step back. "I had no idea," I said calmly. "Your lover texted you when you went to sign for that package." I saw the notification. That's why I checked. I told her not to even try turning this around. If I hadn't seen that message, I'd still be completely in the dark while she kept cheating on me. She started mumbling that it wasn't what it looked like. "I know you slept with him," I said. I was bluffing, but my gut was screaming. She denied it. I told her to stop lying. She denied it again. I set the phone down on the table and slid it toward her. "I can't marry a liar." That's when she broke down, full-on sobbing. She said it only happened once. I laughed again. "Once? And you're still sexting him? Still talking to him?" "It was a mistake," she kept saying, trying to touch me, trying to calm me down. A mistake, right? A mistake she would have happily kept making if I hadn't caught her. The thought of how far this could have gone, marriage, kids, a whole life built on a lie, made my skin crawl. I went into the bedroom, grabbed her suitcase, and started throwing her stuff into it. She followed me, crying even louder, begging me to stop. I was beyond done. "Give me the ring back." The look on her face was unreal, like she'd just seen a ghost. That's when it finally hit her. Real consequences. My hand stayed outstretched for a full 2 minutes before she took the ring off and placed it in my palm. She didn't fight it. Honestly, I was relieved. I shoved the suitcase into her hands and told her to leave. She walked out without saying another word. That night, I locked the door, turned off all the lights, and got drunk. The next morning, I woke up to a wall of missed calls. Some from Emily, some from her parents, and a few from mine. She had obviously told everyone the wedding was off. What I didn't know was how much of the truth she'd actually shared, and I strongly suspected it wasn't much. I had zero interest in talking to anyone. There were only two outcomes anyway: pity or people telling me we could work through it. I wanted neither. Throughout the day, a couple people even knocked on my door. I stayed silent until they eventually gave up and left. It wasn't until the following day that I finally said screw it and created a group chat. I added both sets of parents, Emily and her siblings. Then I sent a long message. A very long one. I laid out everything. The messages, the sexting, the lies. All of it. I didn't censor myself, and I didn't care who was reading it. If anyone felt like having an opinion about a now-canceled wedding, they deserved the full context. The chat went dead silent for almost an hour. I could see read receipts popping up, including hers. The first real response came when my dad called me. I remember his exact words. "Son, I'm sorry. You made the right call. It's going to hurt, but it was the right call." That sentence stuck with me. A weaker man might have gone back once the pain really set in. Every time I thought about wavering, that line snapped me back to reality. Over the rest of the day, I got more calls and messages. I answered some, ignored others. But it was clear my decision was final, and people stopped trying to change my mind. As far as I know, that was the last time the wedding was actively discussed. Her parents never tried to convince me to reconsider. I assume they knew their daughter had completely blown it. But here's the thing. That wasn't enough for me. Calling off the engagement was just consequences. I needed her to feel it. My first instinct was to go after Jason, but I didn't really have anything solid on him. I hoped she'd cut him off anyway, since he was the source of her humiliation and the reason her entire family now knew she'd cheated. That part, at least, was satisfying. I probably should have asked for advice somewhere, but my head wasn't in the right place. So I let him go. Emily, though, that was different. We weren't together anymore, which meant anyone I chose to sleep with was fair game. Even hypothetically, her sister. No, I wasn't planning on that. I'm making a point. If I wanted this to hurt, I had two choices: go after the people she loved most, or the people she absolutely despised. Her close friends were a dead end. They'd know exactly what was going on and wouldn't touch me with a 10-foot pole. But the people she hated? That was a different story. Think about it. Imagine your partner sleeping with the one coworker you can't stand, the one who annoys you just by existing. You'd hate them even more, sure, but it would also cut deep. That was my logic. So I ran through my memory. At the top of the list was Lauren 34F, a coworker Emily constantly complained about. Said she was full of herself, which usually just means threatened. That alone made me curious. Next was Brianna 35F, a former college friend. They'd fallen out after Brianna hooked up with one of Emily's exes. Emily had hated her ever since. Then there was Aiko 33F, a Japanese woman Emily openly despised. She once said, "I hate her. She acts all cute and delicate, and men lose their minds over her." That one stuck. There were a few others, but either I couldn't track them down or things didn't pan out. Lauren, though? Easy. They worked at the same company, so LinkedIn did most of the work for me. From there, I found her Instagram and followed her. My IG doesn't hurt. I'm not being arrogant. It's just polished. Good outfits. My Audi pops up a few times, and a couple vacation shots mixed in. She followed me back within minutes. I messaged her. We talked. I used my usual charm, and it was obvious she was interested. After about a day, I asked her out. She said yes. And when we went out, I made sure to take photos. Of her. With her. Made sure she looked incredible in every single one. That date ended exactly the way you'd expect. I won't pretend otherwise. The next name on my list was Brianna. By that point, I knew I was doing a lot purely out of spite, but I was already committed. Brianna lived a couple states away, but I messaged her on Instagram anyway. What I didn't expect was that she recognized me immediately. Emily and Brianna hadn't spoken in years, but apparently Brianna still kept tabs on her life out of pure resentment. And since I'd shown up plenty on Emily's socials before everything blew up, she knew exactly who I was. So I didn't bother lying. I told her Emily and I had split. Her response? Good. I hated her. Then, almost immediately, "Oh, I am sorry. You must still love her." I told her the truth. No, I didn't. And honestly, I was looking for someone who hated her just as much as I did. She called me right after that. We talked about Emily. A lot. At some point, I just said it out loud. I wanted to hurt her back. Brianna didn't hesitate. "Well," she said, "you could sleep with me." At that moment, I finally understood why Emily had despised her so much back then. But for my purposes, it worked perfectly. Setting everything up was easy. I flew out for a weekend. We went bowling, walked around the city, took plenty of photos, very intentional photos. Then we went back to her place and had our fun. She even let me take some extremely suggestive pictures. Clearly, the bad blood between them ran far deeper than I'd realized. Last on the list was Aiko. I got lucky with that one. I found her on Tinder. I didn't know what she looked like at first, but the name alone stood out enough to be sure it was her. We matched quickly. She was slow to respond, and when I asked her out, she said she wouldn't be free for a week. Even when we finally went on dates, it took 3 before anything happened. Still, I got what I needed. Photos. All consensual. All very clear. From start to finish, the entire thing took about 6 weeks. And yeah, I won't lie, I did wonder at times if something was seriously wrong with me for going to these lengths just to get revenge. But I knew I'd feel better once it was done. So I pushed that thought aside. One day, completely out of the blue, I texted Emily. It took her ages to respond, but she eventually did. We exchanged some painfully awkward small talk before I told her I wanted to meet up. I didn't say why. I know that gave her hope. She said she could be ready in 15 minutes. I told her 3 hours instead. I wanted her sitting with that anticipation. No, we weren't getting back together, but I'm sure that's what she thought. We met at a park. She was already there when I arrived, which wasn't surprising since I'd taken my time getting ready. She stood up to hug me, and I let her. It was easier to sell the illusion if I wasn't cold. We talked about nothing for a bit. Then I took out my phone and sent her a bunch of media. "Take a look," I said. Her neutral expression slowly collapsed into a frown as she opened the first photo. "Why are you showing me this?" she asked, seeing Lauren. Before I could answer, she swiped. There I was, with Lauren. She kept scrolling. Then came Aiko. I casually mentioned how fun she was to be around. I watched tears well up in Emily's eyes. Then she reached Brianna. First a bowling video, then the explicit one. She watched it loop 3 times. Finally, I said it calmly. You know what's funny? None of these women were anything like how you described them. Honestly, they were all better than you, especially where it actually matters. She lost it. She jumped up, screaming, pointing at me, calling me every name she could think of. I genuinely wondered if she might hit me. I kind of tuned it out. I was too busy watching her shake with rage. At one point, she yelled, "You act like you're some saint, but you're worse than me." That's where I stopped her. I didn't reconnect with my ex. I didn't sleep with him while engaged. I didn't keep sexting him behind your back. I'm not engaged anymore because of you. I stood up. So, if you're angry, you can only be angry at yourself. She broke down again. This time, she looked truly shattered. And honestly, that was it for me. Seeing that look felt like closure. I got what I needed. I haven't heard from her since, not even when she hit 30. And I prefer it that way. I don't know if this is advice for anyone, but don't ever assume someone is incapable of cheating. That's what I believed, and I was dead wrong. If you can sign a prenup, do it. I was lucky enough to get out before marriage. Stay alert. Trust your instincts. And if you have real suspicion, don't be afraid to look. Living with constant doubt isn't worth it. I got out, and I hope you do too.